What's up, YouTube? Brett Hoover from Rants here. As always, guys, if y'all enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave that comment down below. All right, so what was the best superhero flick of 2021? Definitely wasn't Black Widow. Now, this year has been full of a lot of hidden gems, but really movies that you thought were going to be great movies. Actually, a lot of them kind of turned out to be duds. One was Black Widow. Shang-Chi, I never really had that much expectations for. Eternals was just bland as all get out. As far as Venom, Let There Be Carnage, now I love that movie overall, but at the end of the day, it just its ending and the whole climax of the movie just didn't feel connected. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel like that's where the movie naturally went. It's just where it needed to go for it to end. I thought it was a little bit too short in a lot of ways. But my two favorite movies of 2021, when it comes to superhero flicks, absolutely has to be Spider-Man No Way Home or either Zack Snyder Cut from Justice League. Now, I thought Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut from Justice League was actually a great movie. I thought it took a bland movie. It took a movie that we had already seen before. We had already seen a lot uh, of a lot of the events that took place. We knew the storyline to it, but at the end of the day, it made it a whole new experience. Now, I was critical before the Snyder Cut come out because I was like, I didn't really even enjoy the first Justice League. Why would I go back to watch the same movie with just some added scenes? But I was completely and totally wrong about that. The scenes that they added really made this movie excel, really did, and it makes you wonder what would have happened if they would have been able to continue on with the Snyderverse. I mean, would DC live up to the expectations that it's always dreamed of living up to when it comes to, fighting off the MCU and trying to imitate the MCU in a lot of ways? I think it had that potential, but unfortunately, we'll never get to know. And that's the sad part about it. Now, one thing that I will say was a negative of this movie, and I always say it's a negative, even though a lot of people say, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's a big deal to me that it took 4 hours for this movie to be connected and to be good. Now, if Zack Snyder, let's say Snyder didn't leave and we didn't take over that director's job, what we would have seen wasn't going to be the 4 hour cut of it. We were going to see a 2 hour cut. And in 2 hours, it wouldn't have been very good. It really wouldn't have been. Wouldn't have been able to expand, upon the stories and the characters that it brought out when it come to Flash and Cyborg, who were just hidden gems when it comes to this movie. So in that way, I give it negatives simply because if it would have just came out in theaters, been a 2 hour runtime, it wouldn't have been that good of a movie. It really wouldn't have been. It would have been better than the one that we saw, but it wouldn't have been next level like I felt like Snyder Cut actually was. That is probably my biggest drawback when it come to that, to that entire movie, was that at the end of the day, it took 4 hours when they should have shored it up, made a better movie in a 2 hour span, and I probably would have given it a higher grade if they would have done that. Simply because you can't. How do you compare a 4 hour movie to any 2 hour movie? Take Spider Man No Way Home, 2 hour runtime. How do you compare that to Spider Man No Way Home when Spider Man No Way Home had a coherent story? Everything was pieced together perfectly. It had nostalgia bait, yet it fulfilled the meanings and the action and all of that in that runtime. So if you gave that movie 4 hours, or any movie for that matter, 4 hours to completely, flesh out all the characters and all that, you would have a lot of duds that actually turned out to be decent, if not great movies. Because in a lot of ways, that's what's bad about some of these movies is it takes too long for the story to begin. Snyder Cut is that way. It takes a long time for all of those characters to meet, to come together, and then at the end to fight. I would say another probably a negative to it is yes, we get to see them at the very end fight, but I didn't feel like there was enough of them, in action during that movie. But overall, like I said, it's hard to compare a 4 hour movie to a 2 hour movie. That's the reason why I give Spider Man No Way Home an edge. Because Spider Man No Way Home, it's not a perfect movie. It's not a perfect movie. In my review for Spider Man No Way Home, I criticize, the whole premise of the movie, the whole conflict of the movie was stupid. How it came about, it wasn't realistic. It was childish. It was a very immature way to start off a film. I thought something that didn't feel real for even let's say Doctor Strange, having one of his some of his magic go wrong. To be able to just to endanger the entire universe over, Peter Parker's life, because to get people to forget who he was. I felt like that wasn't really that big of a reason to endanger everybody over. That was, I thought, a silly premise to it. Probably my biggest complaint when it came to that movie. But overall, I felt like Spider Man No Way Home did nostalgia bait perfectly. Now, so many movies now want to bring in, if it's a franchise that's, 20, 30 years old, they like bringing in a lot of the older characters that they know will draw fans to go see the movie. But overall, they're just there to either in Star Wars case to die, um, but they're not there to really add much value to the movie. This does the polar opposite. The characters that they brought in, whether it be Tobey Maguire or whoever in this movie, even the guy that played Doc Ock, all of those guys that they used, Jamie Foxx, all of those guys that they used from previous Spider-Man films really made this movie what it was. It made it better. And you just can't stress that enough when it comes to a film. The nostalgia worked. I've never seen nostalgia work so perfect, flow so easily in a film like it did in this movie. Now, Tom Holland, I've been a critic of Tom Holland's Spider Man for a very, very long time. I wasn't a fan of him, but man, did he come together, especially, I would say, middle to end of this film. He came together perfectly, perfectly. And the ending to it was what gave it uh, the bow on top of it. Bow on top of the present was the ending. It was so satisfying and so heartbreaking that, but yet in a good way. Uh, it made an enduring movie. It's a movie that I've already seen a couple of times already, and I enjoy it every time. I cry every single time that I watch this movie. It is that good of a movie. It is that touching of a movie. I cannot wait for another Spider-Man film. Now, when you talk about Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut, yeah, I was pumped that they would have made, continued on with the Snyderverse, but we're not going to get that fulfilling ending that we all wanted for the Snyderverse. We're not going to get that. We're going to get redos, basically. We're going to get a Flash movie that's probably not going to be that good. Yes, it's going to have a lot of, characters, again, nostalgia, but it's probably not going to be for the same reason that Spider Man No Way Home brought them back. They're bringing those characters back because Michael Keaton and so forth, because they want to attract people to a Flash movie, not because they're going to be a central key figure in that movie. But hey, we'll just have to see on that one. But at the end of the day, Spider-Man No Way Home made my year for movies because this wasn't, I've seen some good movies. I enjoyed Godzilla versus Kong. I enjoyed to a certain extent Mortal Kombat. There were some decent movies. Cruella, I actually kind of enjoyed that movie to a certain extent more than I thought I would. But as far as Spider-Man flicks, I thought Spider-Man No Way Home um, was was perfect, just perfect. But anyways, guys, let me know what y'all think. What do y'all think was the best superhero flick of 2021? Do you think it was the Snyder Cut? Do you think it was Spider-Man No Way Home, or do you think it's any of Marvel or DC's other films of this year? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Y'all take care.